Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Got a couple of small pistols on the table. I've got the Glock 48 and the Springfield Armory Hellcat Pro. Please don't forget to check out our website. Go to our affiliates page. You'll find discount codes for things like Mantis X and Core belts. Link to that cool little bore light that we use for lighting up the barrels. Use those links. It will often save you money, never will cost you any additional money, and helps the channel. And please consider supporting the channel on Player, formerly Utreon, where we can do some types of videos that are no longer allowed on YouTube. These are both chambered in 9mm. Of course, the Hellcat Pro is a little bit newer on the scene, and this one is part of their micro compact series that holds larger capacity. It's kind of got a stack and a half going on. It's a 15 round flush magazine, and as you saw, it does fit nice and flush. And they do have a 17 round extended mag available that kind of blends in nicely with the grip. So you between 15 and 17 rounds capacity. But this thing is small, and that's the design of it. Now the actual regular Hellcat, not the Pro, has got a shorter grip and a little bit less capacity, meant to be even smaller. The Glock 48 is truly a single stack. It holds 10 rounds, and that's the only factory magazine available for it. So you are limited in capacity to that. And before you reach for your keyboard, yes, I do know that the Shield Arms mag exists, but I'm not going to count that. It holds 15 rounds. I'm not going to count that because you can't use it in a gun with the original mag release for an extended period of time without damage. So I'm looking at magazines you can buy and just plug in and have work. And by the way, I neglected to. They're both empty and not going to cause us any problems. From a size perspective, the Hellcat is smaller in every dimension. I'm going to put it on this box simply because there's an optic on the Hellcat, and if I don't, it'll kind of skew things. But you can see that the Glock is longer. It's 7.28 inches instead of 6.6 for the Hellcat. The thickness, which if I turn them a little bit, it's going to be hard to see the difference in thickness because the Glock is 1.1, the Hellcat's 1. So 0.1 really isn't going to make a big difference in the grand scheme of things. And from a height perspective, they're real close. They're right around the 5-inch mark. The Hellcat's a little almost flush at the back. The Glock's a little higher at the front. It all depends on the the angle and the magazine. So from a grip height perspective, they're roughly equal. The interesting thing, of course, is this same grip height in the Hellcat gets you 15 rounds versus the 10 rounds in the Glock. That's going to be one of the major differentiators. From a weight perspective, they're similar. The Glock is a little bit lighter at 20.74 ounces. The Hellcat is just a hair heavier at 21 ounces, but a quarter ounce. It's not going to make a big difference. And I'm not counting the optic because there is an optics-ready version of the Glock 48 now. So if you chose to have an optic on it, that's an available option with the Glock 48. I will note that all of the Hellcat Pros are optics-ready. They don't come with the optic, but they're optics-ready. There are dark versions, the regular black versions of the Glock 48. There's a couple companies that are doing Cerakote variants. You can get these in a number of different colors. But there's not a whole lot of variation on this theme. There's not compensated versions or threaded versions or any of that kind of stuff with the Glock 48. Pretty much it's what you see is what you get, but maybe the slide will be black instead of the silver color that you see here. And maybe it'll be optics ready, maybe it won't, depending on which one you pick. The Hellcat has lots of variations. There's threaded versions of this. There's all sorts of different variations. They are all optics ready. So from an MSRP perspective, the Glock you're going to find for between $450 and $499, depending on whether you get the optics ready or not. The Hellcat goes from about $650 to $1,050, depending on which variant you use. The one that's in my hand is going to be at that lower end. It's going to be in that $650 territory. So from a cost perspective, the Hellcat is a little bit more expensive, $200, which might be noticeable depending on your budget. And again, I'm not counting the optic. But for that, you're getting a lot more capacity in the same footprint, basically a more modern gun. The Hellcat has Picatinny rail. The Glock does not. You're relegated to trigger guard lasers, which they are available. They've been out for Glocks for a long time. But most modern guns, even the small ones, have Picatinny rails. And the interesting thing is, a lot of times Glock say, well, you can't have a rail on a gun this thin because it's just not practical. Well, Hellcat, it's got a rail and it's just as thin. So it's doable. They just, with their design, they just haven't done it. So overall, when you look at dimensionally, the Hellcat's winning the game in everything except price. They both have the same type of safety, so they have the inertial toggle in the trigger, both of them. They have the internal drop safeties. They're both striker guns, so they're both designed to be drop safe. And I know Glocks, all sorts of horrible things have been done to them, and they haven't gone off. I've never heard of a Springfield firing unintentionally. So as far as I'm concerned, both of these guns are drop safe. Neither one of these has the replaceable back straps. Not a common feature in guns this size. And both of them have similar sights. So this particular Glock happens to have night sights on it, but the normal sight for this would be a U dot. So the back would be a square U, your typical Glock sights, and a white front. The Hellcat, the sights you see are the sights you get. So the front sight is tritium with a ring around it, so it's very visible, and a rounded U. So instead of a square U, it's a rounded U. And then, of course, if you put an optic on either one of these, it's the optic of your choice. And both of them are easy to maintain. The Springfield, you flip this lever down, it comes apart. The Glock, you pull the tabs down, it comes apart. And so both of them are easy to maintain and live with, toolless maintenance, easy to work with. So I'm going to demonstrate the triggers. So we'll start with the Hellcat. Reasonable take up. A kind of a slightly stiff, very defined wall with a little bit of pull through. It's a nice trigger. It's actually a very good trigger for a concealed carry gun. The reset is pretty much all the way out of the overall travel. And then again, that same very repeatable brake, and there is an over travel stop. It's not adjustable, it's just built in. The Glock, a little bit less take up. More pull through on the wall. The wall is less sharp, less defined. They're about the same weight. And the Glock has a very defined reset. You can feel it and hear it. And then that same brake. Overall, I would say, as triggers go, I do happen to like Glock triggers, but I would say the Hellcat has the better trigger. The Hellcat's winning the trigger game. But both these triggers are effective. They're both designed and good triggers for concealed carry guns. Neither one of them is intended to be a match trigger. That's not what they're designed for. The only other thing I would say from an ergonomic standpoint is there's various pads, landing pads, indexing pads on the Hellcat, and the Glock, you just got the RTF texture here and no other features. There is a little bit of texturing at the front of the trigger guard if you choose to put your fingers there. The Hellcat has a smooth rounded trigger guard. It's probably the only thing the Glock has that the Hellcat doesn't is texture up there. But it is a larger trigger guard, so if you've got gloves and stuff like that, it would work well. From a reliability perspective, both of these have been dead reliable from day one to now, and I've had both of these for quite some time. When I take these to the range, they just work. Neither one of these exhibited a break-in period. They've been reliable from ground zero. And Springfield is known for reliability, and so is Glock. So if you're choosing between these, you're not choosing which one's more reliable. You're probably choosing primarily, I'm going to say, based on capacity and then price. So depending on your budget, price may overrule your desire for capacity and drive you towards the Glock. Otherwise, if you've got the money, yeah, I would almost say that the Hellcat's a better choice. Same footprint, better capacity, more modern, and overall, I think the Hellcat's just a nicer gun. And having said that, I like Glocks, but I'm not seeing where Glock is keeping up with the rest of the world when it comes to this category of guns. Everybody seems to be pulling ahead of them. Of course, the other important factor is, are they easy to shoot well? Are they easy to pull nice groups with? I found that to be true of both of these. They're both easy to shoot well. Of course, the Hellcat in this current configuration happens to have the advantage of an optic. It's going to make this one a little easier to shoot well. But again, you can buy the MOS version of the Glock, put an optic on it, and have that same advantage. I found that the ergonomics, the shape of them, they fit in my hand well, and they were easy to shoot well, both of these. Now, both of these are going to be a little flippier than a large size gun like an XDM or say Glock 17, just because they're small and light. But I wouldn't say that either one of these had particular advantage over the others as far as easy ability to shoot well. The other thing I'll do before I wrap up is you probably want to see the other side of them. There are no ambi features on either one of these. The magazine release on the Glock can be reversed as well as the Springfield, so that you can set the magazine release up for a left-handed, but there's no slide stop slide release on the other side. And they're both relatively easy to rack. I would say they're about equal. So the Glock, Springfield's just a hair heavier, but not so you'd notice. So if you're having a problem racking guns, neither one of these is going to be your thing. You're probably looking at one of the EZs. If you can rack either one of these, you can rack the other. They're pretty close to each other. So beyond that, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you do. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Player, Rumble. We're pretty much everywhere. And thank you.